campagne, mais il s'est farouche soldat, il viene jusque dans vos bras, égorgé au fils vos compagnes. Aux armes citoyens, aux lignes bataillons, marchez, marchez,
In the great globe of sky above, magnificent plans are being made for all humanity. For we in our octave of light hold one thought and one alone, and that is of the cosmic family, of which each one is a part, so dear to our heart in reality, when individuals find at last the knowledge that bids them enter into communion with our octave. These magnificent plans which are being laid for the whole human family have always been a development of the mind of God through that blessed organization known as hierarchy. Through the power of the hierarchies of the Son, I am come, and I bring with me the fullest knowledge of how those divisive powers that are already antichrist in the world seek to splinter and to shatter the whole cosmic family into a disintegrated disorder. How they seek to turn brother against brother, nation against nation, and man against himself. By the process of disintegration and confusion, through the creation of a false sense of values, mankind are being emotionally disturbed. And we come then this day to proclaim the holding forth of a steady flame in the world community that will enable mankind to recognize the role each individual must play in the carefully planned drama of hierarchy that will once again enable the earth to recapture its lost culture. And then, glory of glories, to at last transcend the highest culture that man has ever advanced to in past ages, and once again obtain in the new and forthcoming golden age and high adventure in reality that will enable each one to appreciate that glowing fire of the sun which is above mankind's ordinary human consciousness and the fathomings of the human mind. But by the grace of God, we may indeed take from humanity the blindfolds they have allowed to be draped over their form, and with the coming of higher knowledge, once again, cooperation between unborn worlds, between higher worlds, will come about in this domain. For the divine concepts already planned in higher octaves, the borning of worlds not yet seen will come about, and humanity will become the beneficiaries of those they know not of, nor have not even yet contemplated. For I assure you, by all that is holy, that the hierarchy has in their heart a focus of the God flame that includes every individual upon the planetary body. Have you thought on this? If not, will you then recognize this? That in our heart, in the heart of hierarchy, there is a focus of you. Therefore, whatsoever you allow to be transmitted across the screen of your consciousness can simultaneously appear in our octaves of light. And this enables us to monitor your doings, to perceive the progress or the stultification, the successes and the failures of humanity in carrying out the will of the cosmic hierarchy. Divisive tactics are what is loose today in the world. Tactics of accusation, for the accuser of our brethren is cast down now to the earth, and in his casting down he seizes all minds that do not resist him, that he ought then to flee from them. Rather, paying heed unto him rather than unto the constructive energies of cosmos, they point accusing fingers at others and do not realize how very small are their contributions of cosmic energy to the right courses. We come then to inform humanity. Those of you who are receptive to the passions of hierarchy, to the heartbeat of God on behalf of his creation, and we say unto you, oh, there is so much that humanity today have allowed to fruate in their world that actually consists of insects of destruction, activities of vileness, and the contemplation of man's weakest points. We say to you all that the glowing fires from the sky, the great cosmic globe, holds within it the pattern of cosmic iridescence, the hopes of the world and the hopes of God, one hope. For as God has hoped, so has he implanted in humanity's heart the very self-same hopes in embryonic form. Out of these tiny hopes in the hearts of mankind will come the giant plans in the mind and consciousness of God. The hand of hierarchy is imminent. The hand of hierarchy can be felt. The hand of hierarchy is nigh. The hand of hierarchy from the sky beams its light everywhere to earth. Yet mankind, as they gaze upon the mud and the concepts of the ground, do not behold the light from the skies, the light of refreshment and culture, the light of high adventure upon the cosmic road. We bring then to earth this day a ball of flame from the heart of God. We have compressed it for 7 weeks. We have intensified it for 7 weeks. We have prepared it in our thoughts for over 7 years. And we bring this great fireball to the planet this day as a spiritual focus of intense light energy. We have compressed within it the concept that it can never be requalified by human concepts. We therefore have made it a flame that will burn and consume ignorance, darkness, blindness, and hopelessness, and all negative qualities. But we have made it also a flame that will kindle the contraries, the great Christ-like attributes of freedom for which mankind's hearts do crave. We have placed within this great ball of flame, from the very heart of the central sun, the hopes that God himself has already placed in miniature within the soul of man. There in the tiny seed plan, already in place in each of your hearts, is this focus of God's love. That it has been overlaid by a patine of mankind's wrong thoughts and the projections of vile energies from demoniac worlds is a certitude. But now we say, O living and pulsating fire from the central sun, as thou descendest to this earth, remove the patines of darkness and shadow, the veils of shame and doubt and condemnation from the hearts of men, and show them that the original plan not only lives once again, but always will continue to express the domain of God's restlessness to produce the miracle of his peace in the hearts of men. If my speech seemeth strange unto you, then let me assure you that there is a divine discontent and dissatisfaction with the current way in which humanity have handled their affairs as well as individuals. They have not reached out in recognition to the intensification of God's plans at heavenly levels. They have failed to take into account the activities of cosmos that are the destiny of God, brought forth specifically for individuals upon this planetary body to help extricate them from that which binds them. Will you then this day pay heed and be grateful, recognizing the power of the sacred fire to create new and burning passions within your heart, to replace those old fires of human thoughts and human lusts and degradations by the purposes of the living God? To raise humanity up to a state of a Christ is the work of the Divine Mother, the Mother of the world. In her outreach to the hearts of humanity, seeks to penetrate the facade of mankind's evil creation by the pulsations of the light and the cosmic energies of holy rhythms of the Spirit that will, by reason of their fourth dimensional emanations coming forth now into the screen of the 3 dimensions, produce those miracles of cosmic beauty and perfection that are a part of the heart of God. I am come then this day as a cosmic mother to gather together the children of God upon the entire planetary body. Let them, if they will, not hear my voice. I speak, and the world is satisfied. For the very stones indeed cry out as the great ratio memory, the great cosmic memory ingrained within each manifestation of substance responds to the voice which I bring with me, the voice as of many waters, crying out in the wilderness of humanity's domain and saying, make straight paths for your feet, prepare the way of the coming of the Lord. For the coming of the Lord is indeed imminent in the sense that myriad hearts have cried out, starlight, reaching out for the greater light in the consummate center of mankind's identity. For mankind from without in and from within out reaches forth to receive the intensification of the cosmic plan throughout hierarchy. We summon then, in the name of God, the great goddess of justice, to stand here upon this platform this day. Beloved Portia, we ask the sufficiency of the outpouring of humanity's karma that will be calculated to produce the best response, the holiest action that can bring about a speedy and swift shortening of the days of mankind's travail. Won't you please be seated? We place then this petition before thee and before these other august members that are before us now, that each member of the karmic board may hold in that holy brow those futures for humanity that will mold them now in God's image once again. The revival of spiritual energies, the rekindling of the ancient flames and fires, is an action to inspire and direct humanity. That evil exists upon the planet is a fact. But, dear hearts of light, will you understand me? The greatest power, the most magnificent concept, is within the creative fires of your hearts. Right there, within you, if you will, can you kindle and summon that valor which will make you great in the eyes of God, for you were made great in the beginning seed structure. And as the seed structure holds inviolate the matrices of immortality, the very nature of God is yours once you behold it as your own. The difficulty from the human octave is that mankind have for so long believed and created those patterns that are unwise, that they do not see the patterns from the sky. I come then this day to release in the world the substance of the ball of fire from out the central sun. O God, make us one. Release now thy flame upon the planetary body, and let humanity bow, one and all, to the name of the living Christ. Let the recalcitrance and the shames that humanity have worn, sometimes so unceremoniously, so ungraciously, depart the stage of life. And in its place, let us redirect the energy. Let all understand that the torch I wield is their own. Let all understand that the torch I carry and uphold is their own. Let all understand that the fire I bear is their own fire. That the prayers I make unto deity, and as spokesman of the karmic board to the other members, is your own plea. A plea, perhaps, in your eyes without precedent, but not in ours. For other worlds have also borne similar imprints to your own. Some of them, unfortunately, did not succeed in the cosmic plan, and some of you are the remnant of those who were upon those shadowed planets as they were shattered in interstellar space. Do not consider then the fact that light and truth can never fail, for they will not fail. Light and truth will go on and on and on. A man may fail, plans may fail, men may fail to appropriate what has been brought, but never will God fail. And if man fails, it does not mean that the Word has failed. And the word, the earth abideth forever, does not say, man in any state will abide forever. For worthless too would the garments of heaven be, if humanity were to be preserved forever in their present state. Only in the ongoingness of life, only in progress, dear hearts, and only by progress, can humanity deserve to receive that magnificent light which is held in the globes, the fiery iridescent globes of divine perfection in hierarchical realms. Understand then that although we deem you worthy in our thought, your thought as a part of our own thought must also do so ere you yourselves come to that point where you can manifest it. When you say, manifest, manifest, manifest now, is it not because you believe in the efficacy of your own words? In the name of heaven, I ask you this. Do you think then that if you do not continue to carry this out in all of your affairs, that you can exhibit that God control which we wield? I do not think so. Individuals by their past momentums generate their present ones, and their future momentums will be generated because they have decided to follow the divine plan. The divine plan is not crass. It is not the figment of someone's imagination. This messenger is incapable in his human self of creating these words I bring, these thoughts, these vibratory actions, which I bring to you this day in the name of heaven. Do not then become little children in that sense that you manifest the ignorance of the world. Free yourselves from it and understand that I am called the appellation the Goddess of Liberty by divine grace, and I stand here by the grace of the karmic board to speak to you this day that you ought to come into one accord swiftly, that you ought to understand that the trivial divisions and senseless actions that humanity manifests, creating those separations in heart and cleavages in spirit, ought never to be anywhere in the universe. Humanity ought to understand that by the power of their faith and by the power of their freedom will they come into that understanding which I am. I am that understanding. Out of the consciousness of the being of God I come, and I come that I might manifest hope in you. But this hope that does not manifest in the midst of your moments of travail is also unfruitful. Let it then be fruitful, because you accept it and will make it so. By the ratification of your hearts of light will the very presence of God manifest upon this planetary body. You yearn, most of you, to see the glowing light of cosmic fires lit upon myriad torches in the desires of humanity. You deplore the activities that tear down the divine and cosmic symphonies of the Spirit. And I strike a blow in the name of God upon the activities of witchcraft upon this planet. I take my torch and I intensify the flame to the point where I will cause many individuals who have engaged in witchcraft activities to receive now, even this day, the return of their karma upon them. And I have spoken this as an edict from on high. For lo, the light of God that never fails will also strike a blow in the name of God against those activities that shall not prevail upon this planetary body. I declare it so, and I am liberty. And liberty and freedom are the power of the divine spirit to move untrammeled throughout space. I come then with the holy winds of the Holy Spirit and the marvelous consciousness of the infinite light, moving in the name of God by cosmic delights and cosmic fires into action in the world of all who will accept me, and now through your invocation into the world of form, to recreate those virgin concepts that once again will return to mankind the frequencies of his own God-given soul. I am liberty. I came to help make you whole. Persia. The Cosmic Mother has spoken in her office. Peace and joy and love from the heart of God unto the world. For lo, the Christ consciousness is with you always. Will you drink into it? Blessings be upon you who can receive the faithfulness of my record. Infinite care speaks. Infinite care speaks in God's concern for each life stream so precious to him, close to his heart, close to the heart of his flame, is a breathing concern. We come to those of you who have tasted a small portion of fruitfulness and a small portion of bitterness. And we come to you to speak unto you about that immortal consciousness and being within you, which ought to be the chief concern of every man. Our disciplines, sometimes deplored and unwelcomed, are also a pruning hook, an action that curbs the will of man. Man, by his acceptance of these disciplines of the Spirit, becomes more than man day after day. These things are not always pleasing unto man, even the aspirant upon the spiritual path. As one gazes upon the landed area of the earth, he cannot help but see that portions are unfruitful. And so some individuals, for what reason only God knoweth, do not allow themselves to become fruitful. They do not allow themselves to become free. In the name of freedom, they face the bondage of their own creation. And there are times that we would say, their name is Legion, for they are many. If we would permit ourselves to enter into a bond of human sympathy, even those in the ascended state could lose that which they already have attained. I have a reason for speaking to you tonight as I do. Do not probe my reasons. These reasons are to encourage you, in part, to take thought in a divine way about the nature of your own future, spiritually speaking. When a purging comes to an individual, when a man faces the need for catharsis in his life, it is the work of God to the purification of the temple. And as we gaze upon the many upon this planet who are potentially children of the sun, yet bound round about by bands of darkness, once again our concerns mount. Yet these concerns do not seem to always produce the fruit of our desires. Do you know why? Because each one must enter the doorway for himself. Each one must seek our guidance and the guidance of God. It is not enough for us to abide in our realm. Individuals must aspire to come to our temples and to be taught. The pathway of shadow and shadowed shapes and things to come bear elements of fear to humanity. The light bears freedom. And freedom in the soul is a necessity of this moment, as it is of every moment. The moths gather round the flame, and with their coming and their singed wings, they often lose their lives. So in matters of magic, and our land is familiar with magic, men often do not understand the awesome responsibility in the gathering of power. The gathering of power, the summoning of power, is a responsibility which all should be made aware of. It is a responsibility that, when rightly used, produces in the world of form a new birth for many, and contemplation of glorious ideals and purposes. For the direction of the brothers is intense and concentrative and illuminative and tender. Our hearts are tender as well as disciplined. We do not face individuals with an eye of steel and say unto them, you must do this, because God wills it so, without also understanding how very difficult individuals have made it for themselves to yield themselves to the Spirit by reason of their own fears and doubts and the expressions of distrust and confusion which are resident within their mind. As was once said, the gusts of their mind do extinguish the flame. They do not extinguish the flame within us. They do not extinguish the flame in heaven's name within the angels. They extinguish the flame within themselves by the gusts of their own mind, by their own doubts, by their own fears, by their own recalcitrance. And yet, shall I say they claim it? Shall I say they ought to have it? Nay, they ought to rid themselves of it, for it is profitless and without purpose. Yet men are different in their thoughts, for their education is different, in the sense that they have assimilated diverse factions of life, and they do not understand all that is brought unto them. Let them learn then the art of patience with themselves. For the disciplines of patience are great indeed. And by your patience will you not only possess your souls, but you will come to a breathing, living awareness of who, what, and where you are. And when you realize that you have indwelling within yourself the throne room of communion with higher purpose, you will bow the knee to that purpose and say, O holy radiance of purity and ray of the divine will, focus thyself within me, that I may never be broken in my resolve to hold fast to the faith, and in my faith reckon with the frailties of the human nature, which must yield itself to the presence of the living God. Spiritual battles are won and lost, beloved ones, simply because men lack the faith to summon the beautiful deification which God holds for each one. In coming to you then this night, I am aware also of some who have yielded to elements of sadness in their own nature, that they can no longer have their way, do their own will, and still be one with God. Confronting then the phantoms of themselves, face to face with those concepts that have faced every neophyte from time immemorial, they are quite naturally placed in a dilemma of what shall they do and whom shall they choose. Is there any choice? I ask the question as a matter of discipline, and I say to you all that the fires of discipline and the disciplined mind and the disciplined heart are the substance out of which the lives of the ascended masters and the angelic beings are framed and made. Only by standing face to face with the ghosts of shadow and shame that are remnants in your own life, and then recognizing the fact that the initiatic process stands before you with its milestones of achievement, which all of you must ultimately pass one by one in your road toward godhood, can you find at last the summoning of that energy and will which the law requires this moment and will ever require. These requirements, impersonal in nature, are made to all. We do not compromise spiritual issues. They are brought to each man squarely, face to face, and face them you must. You cannot compromise your pathway into the purity of God. You cannot compromise your pathway into divine wisdom. So long as you hold and prefer the strength of the world's doings, so long will you fail to understand the simplicity of the divine mind. But the divine mind, in all of its radiant simplicity, holds within it the scintillating power of mankind's victory. It is a victory framed in heart and mind, for both are needed. They must be summoned, and the strength must be summoned from God in order to overcome the vicissitudes that face you from day to day in the great battle of life, the battle for being. Do you think in heaven's name that it is enough to be made in the divine image and then have coexisting side by side with the divine image all of the fragmentary bits of knowledge that man has actually perceived and contemplated in various phases of his existence and has not extinguished them? I tell you, nay, for whenever you are about to respond to the radiant perfection of your God presence, then face to face will you stand with the imperfection of your human presence, your human personality. Only when you are able to recognize the duality of being and in honor to prefer the living God can you summon the necessary will to overcome the whimsies of life with which you are faced. For always there is in man all of the human phases of nonsense and shame for all of those acts which he has performed when abiding and dwelling in the human consciousness. And I ask you this question: do you expect that the powers of heaven are going to compromise the issue? I tell you they never will. For if they did, you yourselves, each one, would be defrauded most definitely of your potential for spiritual experience. For spiritual experience must come as man becomes victor and master over those phases of his life which have seemed to trouble him the most. You may say, well, the perfection of God is indwelling within me. Why does not the presence of God act? Beloved ones, mankind's free will is the catalyst which must be harnessed, and individuals must understand this. So long as the will be not intense enough to summon the energy and make the God determination, individuals will continue to grovel, as it were, before the face of life and fail those tests which otherwise might be victoriously passed. I do not come to you tonight, then, with the idea of praising these actions which defraud humanity from the very glory which they ought to seek and which they avow they do. We simply understand the difference between the vacillating human will and the will of God. Man must understand how to silence the voices of the human will with all of its meanderings and personal determinations that ultimately in each life become a dilatory sense that will take from him the necessary and required peace of a moment in which an individual can summon the God energy that will make him an outpicturing of the perfection of the living God. In heaven's name, I say to you, in reality, we are just a little bit tired with individuals coming to us and saying, we want you to do it all. I tell you, in the testing that is conducted in our temple, we have again and again brought before individuals the perfection of God and said, this is the will of God, now do it. And they have, simply because we expect it. Let them learn then that the very process of self-expectation is the most marvelous catalyst also in inducing in them the holy will of God that will engender in them the will to perfection. You may say, if you will, or hearken to voices, if you will, that tell you you are destined to fail, that no one in this world has ever won the victory over this or that condition. Let me tell you, this is human nonsense, and certainly not to be believed. For many individuals exist in the ascended state. In fact, all who exist in the ascended state have overcome similar conditions to that which you have overcome. Now I am aware of an individual here in this room who has striven for a long time to overcome certain evil thoughts that are transmitted to his mind, even at those specific times when he tries so hard to manifest the kingdom of God. I want you to know that there is enough power within yourself to overcome those unwanted conditions if you will but summon it from the Godhead. Ask the Divine One to give you the victory over these conditions, and I am certain that he will. So many times individuals do not understand how they ought to ask. They ought to ask with a firm determination before the living God that the answer forthcoming will resolve whatsoever difficulty they are encountering, and not seek to create those phantoms of their own imagination which will detour them from the spiritual path and cause them to suffer all manner of pangs of conscience and questions and doubts concerning their own possibility to find their way into the kingdom of God. Even today, blessed ones, each individual who will accept it for himself is able to receive the highest gifts. God has not withheld gifts from humanity. Humanity has failed to appropriate them when they are given. How many times have we had individuals upon the planetary body utter prayers? These prayers are then answered, and the answer forthcoming appears in their aura. With the coming of this blessing into their aura, they still fail to perceive it, and by their own blindness ignore it sometimes for many years. Then suddenly they are aware of it, for on the turn of a moment, their vision and their eyes are opened, and they see it clearly. Then at that specific moment, they say, why, what I have been praying for all these years has just appeared. And they do not understand that it has been there all the time. Let individuals learn then that many of their prayers have already been answered, but they have not perceived it. Let them ask God then to show them the light and the presence and the power of his gifts and his answers showered upon them that they are not yet made aware of, owing to their own blindness and failure to appropriate the great gifts of life. Oh, beloved hearts, if you could see the state of the world tonight and understand the pangs of human emotion, the gamut of human emotion that is exhibited in the world order, if you could understand the vast difference in your consciousness now as you sit here in this place, face to face with those disciplines of our brotherhood which will give you your own ultimate freedom, you would understand how grateful each of you should be for this temporary culmination of spiritual events, this crossroads of life, where the beauty and perfection of God has already deeply within you in subconscious realms begun to take shape, begun to form within you the principles of the living Christ. May I say to each one of you, heart to heart, that although many of you may never reach in this embodiment our abode, you can call unto us when you are in great mental pain or anguish of heart. And I assure you that if you call with full faith in our presence and our being, either we will answer you directly by a manifestation within your heart and mind of our concern, or we will send one of our seraphic band to minister unto you and to remove those doubts and fears and place in your consciousness a gentle caress of peace and the determination to focalize in your own God-being the fullness of your victory and strength in the light. Some of you do not understand how important it is that you have faith in the reality of our being, that you have faith in the reality of your own being, that you reckon with the graces which God has already vested you with. These talents are the blessing of Almighty God, strongly given to you and focalized within you, because they have not been used for the glory of God. Many times, by cosmic law, no more can be given. Will you understand then that cosmic law governs all the acts of man as it does in our realm? Some do not understand that we too are subject to cosmic law, and how we love it, how we welcome the disciplines of the Spirit, how we welcome the intensification of divine love, even if it means cutting off some potential that we had in physical life when it was not the desire of God. Do you understand the words of Jesus? If your hand offends you, cut it off. If your eye offends you, pluck it out. The true meaning behind this has been explained to you in the past as the cutting off of inordinate desires and the plucking out of the eye of vision and consciousness of that which is not the pure light itself. You do not know, blessed ones, what it means to have a pure consciousness. But, beloved ones, you can know, one and all. For a pure consciousness always accepts those winged thoughts which will raise man out of the level of human thoughts into the realm of the divine. And how careless people are with their thought power. How little do they realize that this thought power can, when tethered to their own God identity, become a means for lifting themselves out of the socket of mortal identity into the realm of divine potential. And the potential that is within you now. It has always been within you, and it always will be. But when will you begin to take advantage of it? Next year? Or in 10 years? Or in the next life? Or in 10 embodiments from now? Beloved ones, if you are to become free, it must be because you have highly resolved to summon your energies and place them upon the altar of your own God identity. When this is done, and when the law is fulfilled, we are allowed to assist you. Until that point, there are times in the matter of individual evolvement when humanity must accept the fact that they seem momentarily to be standing still in their evolution. Let me assure you that in reality you are not, for the assimilative process is going on constantly within you, and that process is creating the formless Christ within your consciousness. Embodied in form, this beauty and perfection will seal you in a radiance you little dream of. But you must wait. You must stand clean in the eyes of God with clean hands and a clean heart. For except ye do, I assure you that the cosmic law will return to you whatsoever you send out into the universe. I want you to know that here at Luxor, many of those who are sent here are given extreme disciplines of the Spirit, exercises in attainment, we call them. They are given these exercises in attainment in order to develop them spiritually, that they may flex the muscles of their spiritual purposes and come to understand a greater measure of the meaning of life. Will you recognize then that the presence of perfection is within you right now and always has been? What is it then that has hindered your own development and coming forth into the light, except your own attention upon human potentials and the possibility of your own worldly successes? So many individuals have concentrated upon worldly successes without understanding that there is a great need for divine successes. No, beloved one, I am alive forevermore, and so are you if you will it so. I assure you that the truth lives on, and if you insist on thinking a lie, then may it materialize in your own life, that you may reap the bitter fruit and ashes of that thought. I have perceived it, and I warn all who come here that the light of the living God, is within you in order that you may come to a state where you will realize that the perfection of God that dwells in you longs to manifest. It is terrible in the eyes of the masters of wisdom that individuals will insist on having their own way without recognizing if they would, they could become masters of wisdom within the next 200 or 500 years. This seems like a long time for many of them, yet there are some who could make it even in this embodiment if they willed it so. Why then are you hindering your own spiritual development by not recognizing your own potential? Why will you insist on clinging to those aspects of the human person that are now coming up for transmutation? I have elected this night to bring forth to you cosmic truth. Yes, but I have also elected this night to bring forth a flame in your midst, a flame of transmutative endeavor, a flame that will cause much of the dross in your nature to come to the surface. Do not be alarmed, beloved ones, at the appearance of those phantoms which you are now currently facing. I assure you that better that they come out than that they stay in. Would you rather be filled with those dead men's bones which the Master Jesus spoke of, or would you have us dig beneath the human surface and bring these things to the light, that they may be transmuted and brought into the whiteness of perfection and purity? I assure you that all the sessions that follow this one will be more glorious because you have had this transmutative action taking place here tonight, where individuals are given the tremendous action of the cosmic seraphim who are descending into this audience as into a cauldron of light, that they may cause the recalcitrant energies of individuals that have kept them bound for so many years, so many embodiments, so many lives, to now relinquish their hold upon them if they will, and be transmuted by the living God into a furnace of holy and pure white heat that generates new purity in them because they have accepted a touch of the transmutative fires. I, Serapis, have brought this energy forth purely for the purpose of making you of greater worth to the hierarchy. Without it, many of you could not possibly have attained what you now will attain, if you will it so. And I want you to know that when I started to speak to you tonight, I deliberately spoke to you slowly, because as I perceived the dense energy rising, I knew that the accumulation of that energy to this sensitive messenger would cause him to be unable to actually take this dictation which is coming forth, a dictation that declares that mortal lethargy ought to be cast into the violet transmuting flame and into the flames of God, so that individuals could forsake that which is no part of their real self and find instead their God mastery through the principles which our Brotherhood teaches. Now, I do not expect that all of you are overnight going to become my pupils or going to bear me the affection which I bear you, but I assure you in the name of the living God that I am doing what I have been directed to do for the freedom of those blessed souls that are here within this group, and those who are out in the world that hear our dictation should clearly understand that this transmutative action may accrue also to those who hear it, and thus mankind will be purified just a little bit more in his onward search for reality. For when man is blinded by unreality that covers his eyes as with scales, he fails in his attempt to appropriate all the gifts of the ascended masters that have been given throughout this conference and other conferences previously. Let all understand then that there is a need to be born and a need to die. A need to die each day unto the things of the world. A need to die each day to the darkness that ought not to live in man. And a need to live each day in accord with the cosmic plan and purposes of God, that each one on Ascension's road may find his peace and his victory in overcoming all the negative effects that he has created in former days in his lives. Thus I say, let them be gathered as the chaff is gathered, and let them be burned as the chaff is burned, and let them be consumed as they ought never to be any more. And in their place, let the face of the living God, white and pure, shining in eternal radiance, be invested upon each one. May each one understand how he can draw from the ever-living Son the power that ought to live forever. This power is the power of the living God, the power that ought to live forever. Yet mankind have misqualified it, and by their misqualification and their own weakness have they created Antichrist, that spirit which seeks to snuff out the light of hope within you and extinguish the flame of immortality. That it can never do it, I assure you, but it can and does in many cases cause discouragement to enter the human mind, so that the spiritual path is not pursued as it ought to be. I say to you all then, I give you my word this night. I, Serapis, pledge my word to you that this that is happening in the world of form is the attempt of the powers of darkness to enclose mankind round about with the darkness that is generated in their own worlds. It has no purpose other than to deter men from the spiritual path. We must banish it by light. We must cleanse ourselves this very night, each one, from the sheaths of darkness that have overcome him. That I identify with you is apparent, for I speak to you as one who understands that the living God lies imprisoned in exile within your consciousness. Have you ever thought of this, beloved ones, that you are holding a portion of the living God bound in your consciousness? So long as you do not let yourself go free to accept the teachings, the immortal teachings of life, will individuals remain wedded and rooted to the ground and not able to understand how they may ascend into the skies of divine hope and remain forever in the consciousness of the living Christ, the only begotten Son of God. I thank you. The matrix of the divine fire is here within you, a divine wind that springeth up in the mind and heart, a living flame, the passion of the soul, coming forth with the image of purity for each one, consummate reality fresh from the hand of God. I am Oromasis of the sacred fire. I come to you this night to intensify your welcome and feelings of gratitude for all of the energy enclosed within the divine matrix. Individuals, if they will, can accept tonight the pressure, the power, and the love of their own divine identity. It does not matter what scum individuals have allowed to place itself upon the face of cosmic purity within them. The power and invincibility of God casts it aside in an instant. By the will of the holy flame, by the will of the Holy Spirit, man is cleansed and once again breathes the sweet air of freedom. A God is born within the individual identity. And as in the creation of the earth itself, the rumblings and movement of the sacred fire brings forth a brilliant whiteness out of the center of the flame and into view, that all may see it who will so to do. And in this cosmic preparation, I assure you, humanity and nature and all of life are once again breathing free from the impositions placed upon that sacred yet plastic substance of the sacred fire. For, O humanity, I say to you, in the name of the living God, the desecrations practiced upon the pure and beautiful substance by misunderstanding men has brought an intensification of karmic action to the earth that will literally sweep millions into a state of degradation and shame. Yet the power and pressure of the sacred fire is within mankind, and the power of rectification, that if man wills it so, can keep him from suffering the fate of spiritual blindness, whereby the age goes as a car of juggernaut down the path of time to sunder its relationships with integrity and realization, and the thunder of cosmic harmony that breaks as a marvelous dawn over the consciousness of humanity and floods forth a new joy, a consummate sense of the living God. I am that I am, flame of flames, hope of hopes, lighting the darkness of mankind, and ever bringing forth the power to banish the shadows and push them back into their lair, where one day the fiat of Almighty God, as of old concerning the seeds of man, shall cry forth, "Never shalt thou be any more." For the native reality of the living God shall breathe its passion of freedom into the mind and heart of man, and he will say, "I am done with thee, O all that is not of the light. I renew my vows unto the living God, made long ere I took physical embodiment, to be a bearer of the sacred fire, to radiate out to humanity as a vehicle of the living God, the expression of honor unto his name. And his name is lovely to behold, the imprint upon the mountains of humanity's attainment marvelously cleanses the earth and frames it in a new setting. A golden age is born in heart and mind, and humanity coming together with a renewed determination never more to be blind, will open their eyes and raise their tiny heads, as though they were gentle flowers, all in a row of perfection's bounty, flooding forth the perfect intensification of the full measure of the golden rule of the law of love that sings out as though the voice of an angel from above once again called unto men and said, "See and behold the face of the Lord thy God, that thou mayest live in his image." When men gaze sadly upon the imperfections of the race and wag their tongues as harpies upon a sordid wire of communication, then do the angels hang their heads and pass away, aware of mankind's shame. They flee, for whosoever will bring forth a breath of scandal or iniquity against one of these little ones of mine, better were it for him if a millstone were hung about his neck and he were cast into the depths of the sea. Speak beautiful thoughts. Speak love and speak hope in the name of God. Why will humanity seek to impugn the integrity of the purest radiance in the world, the radiance of the soul? Does not the soul dwell in all? Is not the soul the fruit of the divine appearance? And with the great freshening of the appearance of the Christ coming from the east unto the west, as the lightning blazes forth in cosmic splendor, the dawn of renewal and strength comes to the individual. A God is born. Thou art that God. Thy faith will renew thyself and thy mind, and thou shalt mount up as on eagle wing. The views that flood thy mind and the thoughts will be so kind unto thee that thou wilt desire one and all to forsake the corrosion of disparagement, of speaking against one another. And you will see that as you speak of the strengths of one another, as you hold out a cup of cold water in the name of the living God, extending it to the least of these, my brethren, whomsoever they may be, wheresoever they are upon the landed surface of the earth, then the great heart of hearts within thee shall burst forth in a singing and melody unto the living God. Hope, hope, hope is born as a great greening of the earth, and the barrenness of the desert lands does perish, and we see the bursting forth with the songs of God and the songs of the angels, of the fragrances that cover the earth, as the twining thornless rose, entwining midst the hearts of men, enabling all to grow and ken the great eternal love that bids them be their brother's keeper for eternity. I am Oromasis. Diana comes with me and sweeps the radiance of the sacred fire through this place. Let a cleansing then of human hearts come about, and out of the voice of God, by the power ex cathedra, let there come forth the crackling of the sacred fire within the heart, that men may see and know the power even Moses did, when the voice of old said, Take off thy shoes from off thy feet, for the ground upon which thou standest is holy ground. I am that I am, boundlessness of the eternal sea of spirit, inviting and bidding all to enter there. Receive then the tender prayer of man's desire to crush his care, and all that is oppression, and all that is man's inhumanity to man, the breathing forth of iniquity's desires. Men do not understand the nearness of the living God unto them and to their heart. They do not understand the purity of the rod. They do not understand the blessed law of karma, that by crushing mankind's iniquity does not of necessity crush him, but rather raises him to a new and high adventure in the spirit, where at last he can find the refreshing streams and the brooks with their babbling waters of immortal life flowing forth from the crystal throne of God, and saying to all, the purity of God is in this great soundless stream, the stream of universal harmony and completion. For the work of God is not finished yet. The day lingers, whereas the night is far spent, and the dawn is also at hand. The similitude of the appearance of God must cover the land, by each individual understanding how he may yoke himself with a cosmic band in the here and now, and be all that God intends immortally and forever. Beautiful Savior of the race, Christ consciousness shining in all thy splendor, as the eyes of the living God, star fire descending from above, radiant angel faces peeping through and flooding forth into the view of all humanity right now. The power of God to cow the enemy of all that is the light, and bring forth this very night upon the world the bounty of the Lord, the mantle of his hopes appearing, candles lit within individual hearts, flames of the Holy Spirit giving to all an imparting of the law that God is near it, near thy very heart, and flooding forth to all the beauty of the reappearance of the living Christ. O bountiful Savior, yoke thyself now with those who are willing to understand and be understood by the voice of the Ancient of Days, in memory of Sanat Kumara's ways. The creation stands to once again create that soundless sound, that lost word of ancient brotherhoods, now come again into our hearts and echoing the sentiments of the angel, sacred Eucharist, breathing substance of the holy fire from the lips of God, attire humanity with new garments, brilliant in their strength and shining of awareness, as the fire of the sun descends in giant droppings, O angels of the living God. Let there be then powerful stoppings of all that is psychic darkness, and the eerie effluvia of humanity who will not understand the reality of the living God, that in the holy name of being I am, clothes and cloaks humanity in the garments of the living one, who would bestow, as he would freshen the earth with the tenderest brooks, the waters of his presence. For the waters that appear and the earth that appear are the Lord, and the glow of his fire is within the mind and heart. And the hand of God appears as of old in temples, ageless, long-lost temples. Mene, tekel a person. Thou art weighed in the balances and art found wanting, O mankind. Ho, every one that thirsteth, come and buy oil and wine, oil and wine of the Spirit, for thy insufficiencies, and that thou mayest no longer be naked before thy God, but clothed upon with the garments of the Son of Righteousness. Rise thou then into the concept of the living God. He will clothe thee now, and as thy vow bears witness to his name, saying, Lo, I am, O God, a tiny flame, that now would seek to once again mature and be a native of eternity, I open wide my heart. I say, O God, wouldst thou take away from me all illicit desire, and once again create in me a clean heart, and renew in me a right mind, that I may no longer be a poor blind thing that fails to see thy strength that shineth in me. I am Oromasis. I come, witness to the imposition of humanity and the pollutions of the elements by mankind's sordid thoughts. I say also that they have polluted the earth with darkness, and they have not understood that that darkness is in their halls of iniquity, and also, unfortunately, sometimes echoes from their pulpits and places where they congregate to praise the name of God, but fail so to do. I come then unto you and say, O few who understand the need of the great waters that cover the earth. The cry of the earth is a lonely cry, for humanity have not understood, and they sometimes feel that theirs is but a fate to die. When lo, I am the resurrection and the life, that from the skies do declare the victory over the open tomb by faith and holy prayer. Ye are the children of the living God. O wouldst thou then arise? O ope thy little eyes and see the beauty from the skies that inundates all the fields and forests by the power of his love. He is the Lord of the whole earth. Elementals from above and below, assemble now and show thy glow, and let the hearts of men aflamed be, that they themselves by native radiance may see that, lo, I am here and I am there, servants of humanity, by cosmic prayer decree, the decree of the living God. All the blessed elementals, even those who will not hold nor have an opportunity to ever be immortal, are still offering their blessed beings to the light of purpose, and bringing forth to the consciousness of mankind both fruit, flower, and tree. They work and serve in all of nature, hoping man will one day be the fire of the sun below, that as above mankind may understand, and through his kindness, holy mind will once again command. I am the guardian of the free, My hopes are ever nigh. The Lord of all eternity drops fragrance from the sky. It is the hope of thornless rose. It is the hope of resurrection glows. It is the hope of shining light. That is the fire of truth tonight. O mankind, ope thy eyes. Ope thy eyes. Ope thy eyes. O angels that have served so long with me, out of the passion of my heart's desire for God in truth to manifest upon this planetary body, let the sacred fire descend and fend off evil, iniquity, and vile thought. Replace it all by Christ awareness God has brought into the arena of man's being. Joy bells chime the light of purpose in your time. Open then your hearts and sing the anthem of the free. Let prayer and consecration, faith and love be all that God would bring to thee this night and every night, for he would light the darkest place. His love would glow in every heart. He speaks a word, it echoes now, though muffled in its start by humanity's failure to appropriate and recognize the plan. God is the presence of all life. He is the victory of the plan. The plan is in thee as a seed. It grows upon the hill. It shines, renewals hopes to all. God's will it will fulfill. Then see thyself as renewed hope, the shining instrument of future cosmic orchestration God will always invoke. I am Oromasis. I have spoken. I have brought with me numerous angels. I say unto them now, release the burden of the sacred fire upon these hearts and burn out every dross. Let purest gold the world refine at any cosmic cost. We are the helpers of the blind. We open men's dear eye. Oh, wouldst thou learn the word be kind to all beneath the sky? For mankind need is ne'er before to understand how love can mold the world on heaven's potter's wheel to once again receive the divine matrix in the heart, the blessed heavenly seed. You all do have it. I now impart a golden acorn in your heart, a glow, a flame, a fire then, to cleanse thy nature growths, and make thee see, if thou wouldst then, the light of cosmic truth. It is done!